This video is about the personal virtue in Hinduism. The personal virtue in Hinduism. The personal virtue in Hinduism. If social virtue in this religion primarily revolves around conforming to the duties assigned to the class into which the individual was born, personal virtue concerns the way in which an individual performs his or her social duty. This point relates to the previous presentation, social virtue. For this, social virtue in Hinduism primarily revolves centered around conforming to the duties assigned to the class. So, personal virtues, on the other hand, concern about the way in which that individual performs his or social duty. That is the way how he or she performs his or her social duty. At one level, personal virtue means contentment with one's lot and the determination to fulfill the social duties assigned to one class. One must eschew, that is, to avoid the duties of others, even when they sometimes seem preferable to one's own. So this point says that at one level, personal virtue in Hinduism means to be contentment, to accept and satisfy with one's lot, with one's destiny. And it's also about the determination, the encouragement, the readiness to fulfill his or her social duties. If, for example, one is born a warrior, one must fight. Even if the violence one commits contravenes, there is breaches or violates the virtue of non-violence. So if, from Hindu's perspective, if that person is born as a warrior, then he must fight, because fighting is his responsibility, his task, his job, his scope as a warrior. So this quotation from Bhagavad Gita. This advice, discussion, communication with Arjuna. Look to your own duty, do not tremble before it. Nothing is better for a warrior than a battle of sacred duty. So if you go here, if you are killed, you win heaven. If you triumph, you enjoy the earth. Therefore, Arjuna stand up and resolve to fight the battle. So this encouragement to Arjuna, as a warrior, he must stand for fighting. He must fight, must be brave, because this is his responsibility. As the end of the previous passage that we see before this Bhagavad Gita, it's made clear that personal virtue means not only contentment with one's duty, but also carrying out one's social obligation with impartiality and equanimity. So it consists of both contentment with one's lot, with one's duty, and also commitment to carry out the social obligations. At another level, then, personal virtue concerns detaching oneself from the world of desire, self-aggrandizement, greed, and ambition. The other level, according to this point, personal virtue is about detaching, to detach, stay away, to separate oneself from the world of desire, from the desires, aggrandizement, greed, ambition. That is to detach oneself from bad character, bad deeds. One should remain disciplined and focused no matter what one is called upon to do, and regard action as the impersonal play of nature quality. So Hindus must be disciplined and focused. on their task, the responsibility. The man of virtue does his duty without regard to the karmic fruit of such action. Indeed, if one succeeds in performing necessary action without desire, no karmic consequences follow at all. For as we have seen, karma is ultimately the product of desire. This according to Hinduism. So Hindu believe that the man of virtue will do his duty without regard of the karmic fruit, without desire, because karma is ultimately the product of desire. Desireless action is equatable to karmaless action, and when one ceases to produce karma, one ceases to feel the process of rebirth and thus nears final liberation or salvation. So Hinduism teaches that desireless action without desire, is equatable, similar to karmaless action, which means that action does not bring karma. And this can stop the process of rebirth, because Hinduism believes in rebirth. Rebirth is based on karma. If there is no karma, then there is no rebirth. And when there is no rebirth, then they, from Hindu's perspective, they can attain final liberation or salvation. So this quotation from Bhagavad Gita about what is action, what is inaction. Bhagavad Gita 4, number 16 to 23. Such a person of disciplined action, of desireless action, has perfected himself or herself and attained the highest level of personal virtue, even while performing his or her social duty and perfecting the social virtues from Hindu's perspective. So Hinduism believes that such a person who already achieved this level or a level of discipline action, desireless action, has perfected himself and already attained the highest level of personal virtue. Now, good and bad in Hinduism. Good and bad in Hinduism. How Hindu views good and bad. Good and bad in Hinduism. In general, Hinduism defines good character as fulfilling oneself within the boundaries of one's inborn and inherent nature, including birth into a particular caste. Bad character is demonstrated by one's rebellion against one's inborn nature. So the definition of good and bad is related to one's inborn nature. So good character refers to fulfilling oneself, fulfilling one's inborn or inherent nature. And bad character refers to the rebellions against one's inborn nature. This may refer also to the caste system. Thus, the repeated injunction, it is better to do your own duty poorly than to do another's well. It is better to do your own duty poorly than to do another's well. Because this important injunction in Hinduism, which is related to caste system, social system of Hinduism. In fact, the more usual assumption is that it is more or less impossible for one to do another's duty well, for to do another's duty at all means that one is going against what Hindu texts regard as the natural order of things. Therefore, Hinduism prohibits his followers from breaching this social system or this natural order. So different castes cannot do another's duty They need to focus on their own duties. The crucial term dharma in Hinduism is both descriptive and normative. One should do what one's nature and character incline to do. As one scholar has observed, in this religion, the only wrong or evil and the sign of bad character is to strive against one's own innate nature. So they need to follow their own innate or inborn nature. In other words, they need to follow their caste system, their caste responsibilities. Good character here thus means going with the grain, that is, enacting and realizing one's inherent nature. One of the possible indigenous terms of character in this religion will be adhikara. Adhikara, predilection, competency, inherent ability, or predisposition. What is entailed in this concept is the notion that different sorts of people are suited to different types of occupations, that they have different religious paths to follow, and that they are differently capable of different virtues. So this from Hindu's perspective. So they believe, adhikara, they believe that different people already destined, already suited to different types of occupation, so they need to follow their own occupation, their task, which is related to, again, the caste system. Good character from this perspective means recognizing, following, and maximizing one's innate predispositions. Good character also means not pretending you are something you are not, being yourself, fulfilling your inborn potential, realizing your innate proclivities. This is the way to live a virtuous life and be recognized as a person of good character. All of this from Hindu's perspective regarding good character. Now we come to summary. The life of virtue in Hinduism first presupposes knowledge of who we really are. So Hindus need to realize who they really are. The Hindu tradition identifies one's true self as the philosophically and mystically discoverable essence of all reality. So this is a mystical concept, philosophical concept, the true self with capital S, and contrast to it a lower self, a small letter self, S, lower self, that is continually reborn as a function of one's karma. So it is the latter self, the small self, the lower self, which is influenced, related with karma. The object of religious life for most Hindus is to produce good karma that will result in a better rebirth. So Hindu will strive to get good karma so that they can get a better rebirth, because they believe in rebirth. The principal way of achieving this is to follow the social and personal virtues appropriate to one's class or caste and stage of life, and to do so with contentment, equanimity, and detachment. So the important way to achieve this target, this destiny, this level from Hindu perspective is to follow their social and personal virtue appropriately. That is to obey their class system. One's character, good or bad, is largely defined by one's conformity to one's own appointed duty and the virtues related to it. So this point explains that one's character, whether good or bad from Hindu perspective, is largely defined, largely related to one's conformity, it's one's engagements, one's stand to his or her appointed duty. For certain extraordinary human beings and for practitioners of certain kind of Hindu techniques for obtaining salvation, ordinary morality and virtue do not pertain. Ordinary conception of good and bad are transcended when one obtains true wisdom about the nature of the world, or in the course of pursuing special method for rapid liberation, or as a result of one's overwhelming love of God. So the last point says that all these conception of good and bad, do's and don'ts, are not really relevant to those who already obtains the true wisdom, or those who already busy themselves, engage themselves in a special method to rapid liberation, to attain liberation, because they are at another level, at higher level. But for others, for general self, they need to follow their social and personal virtue.